seminar itself. And then for Module B, it's a whole course of reading and writing, which is quite extensive for those of you familiar with it or actually following it through. It's very detailed. Thanks to Roger and Doug, put a lot of time and energy into that, setting the whole thing up. And then Doug has to do a lot of work. He's the principal party that evaluates the writing assignments, that to do reaction papers on a monthly basis. He has to take care of that activity too. Otherwise, his personal involvement is just with this, when we have what we call a formal Module B meeting, which is just once a month, one Sunday a month, the last Sunday of the month. This is a 3-hour formal module. Doug is present with the trainees. Otherwise, Doug is not present. He's only present when he's like receiving their reaction papers or other papers eventually they'll have to produce. And then he comments on them. He sends back with comments are usually modified by Roger some too as well. The actual modules are more so led by Chris runs is the facilitator for the Friday meeting, and Roger is his principal facilitator on the Sunday meeting. Both of these meetings are assisted by Dustin, who's sitting down there and could introduce this evening's meeting, because Roger normally introduces, but we've got him up here being a presenter tonight, so we've invited Dustin to kind of fill in the space. But it's as you can see, it's a learning opportunity because it's a struggle to have to go and present that material and yet be a human being about it rather than a machine when all the pressures both from the eyes looking at you and the inner voices speaking are saying you have to be a machine. You have to perform. You got this list of stuff, information. You have to look as nice as you can and be as intelligible as possible. And that's all there is to it. There's no room for anything else. Except maybe total breakdown.
I was thinking, I think I have a lot of rage too. That's kind of why I fuck it up when I present. It's like when I'm presenting by myself, like in my room, I feel like I hit a lot more of the important points. And then when I'm here, it's like it all gets screwed up. So it's part of my rage. I feel humiliated in my own world.
Sense of imagining the eyes looking at you or judging eyes. It's going to be a challenging sort of fantasy when one is trying to appreciate the substance of the actuality of the fantasy one's having, while also not buying the projection, which seems like what it is, first. It doesn't seem like a projection. That's what the word projection means. If it right away seemed like a projection, it really wouldn't be much of a projection. Another way to put that is it's one thing to want to learn about, let's say, gay-centered inner work in a serious sense, which is already a very noble thing to attempt to do, although all of us up here have been having to do that now for decades with ourselves and each other, okay, and as well as now we decided that there should be a more ambitious opportunity for a few daring souls who are willing to experiment with us for this advanced training program, which we hope eventually will become a kind of tradition that we graduate folks from this level that we're at in the training. And we've got actually a less advanced level of training going on. We gradually give folks at that level an opportunity who are showing interest and are interested in something more ambitious. This kind of level where formal trainees are at now, eventually gradually going to get an opportunity to advance to a more advanced level that right now Dustin represents as what we call a candidate for membership. Candidate for membership. Dustin is the only person who we're calling a candidate for membership at that level of the training. It's parallel to what happens in any institute when a person wants to get a more serious kind of training offered by that institute. They also, it's a kind of combination deal. You get trained in how to do it, but you also become a member of that place in going through the program. It's always set up that way, interestingly. And we're even more interested in the idea of how a person can be real with themselves and be able to be a member of what we are as an organization, because we are very emphatic that we be real people as we conduct our business and our business meetings. don't do anything in our so-called business that is not about us being a person. You'd think society would break down. People were not, their performances and expectations and hidden agendas and so on, staying hidden and all that. But actually, it's much richer and functionally interesting and more qualitatively interesting than a business run by what they claim is the only way you run a business is you keep your private stuff private. But it's actually all over the map and form these covert agendas and everything. And one way to look at this advanced training program we're doing is to invite a small group to get together where we turn that upside down for a little while, for the time that the meeting is there, and then when folks can mull it over, it gets together, like I told you, twice a week. And even though one is about reading and writing and the other is about somehow related to these presentations and somehow related to what folks get, it's about just staying with the process, what's going on with the process. As each individual is trying to hang out with their own process, and they're trying to do that vis-a-vis the other trainees, and trying to do that then with the trainers. They're also trying to do with their process. They're not trainers because they have a name that says trainer. They put on some clothes and some trainers. That wouldn't be worth its clout, worth its whatever paper it was written on, your phone, alone. Crap, it would be worth it. Because what is it really, I'm just using words right now, what does it really mean when folks get together in a little space and they are not trying to live in the way that people hide the levels of stuff, even when you get to the stage where you feel these defenses and you know that they don't want you to go further with stuff and you have to work with that then. Versus, oh, you just shut down at that point, you do what the defenses order you to do at that point. That's a real powerful business. And when you've got a trainee, an assistant, 5 trainees, and then you got an assistant facilitator and a facilitator, let's say, in this smaller space, we use this waiting room space in our office to conduct this activity. We invite everyone to donate towards the cost of their conditioning, but otherwise it doesn't have to be charged. To get into this. It's most fascinating. So I've not personally been there myself while it's been conducted. I supervise these guys after every one of the sessions, and often these meetings of our supervision last longer than the actual meeting of the seminar of trainees. This is the level of training we're calling pre-candidacy. Meaning that folks are interested in becoming candidates for membership. It's a mutual process. They get to more and more familiar with what we're cooking, the way we're cooking with these things. We get more familiar with them as individual folks trying to work with this stuff. We go through several years like this before everyone gets a more clear sense of where everyone's at these times. It's just beginning, just a few months, so we're mainly here talking about just beginning this more serious operation, what kinds of impression experiences we've had so far that we might like to share. I'm sure you've all been rolling over, and I might like to share that with the group.
Not me.
Okay, we're not been mulling over in that sense. But now you're going to have a chance to mull over. I'm going to turn it over to you. A little while, and you're going to be on the spot. To share a little according to this topic. About the training and so on. Is it like this? And I'm going to open it up to see if we have a little conversation. I don't know how we'll follow along, trying to get a little impromptu, I suppose. If we're more relaxed, it's probably even more interesting. And then as we're going along, I want to encourage you all to not feel you're just passive recipients, unfeeling, flat recipients in these god-awful, stupid little chairs. But I encourage you to feel that being more actively engaged and get some feelings about things. At some point, we're going to invite you to, if you would like to be more engaged in questioning or talking or discussion vis-a-vis what we're all sharing as we go along. Hopefully, you'll have time for that. We'll just yak on. But we're going to go on. It's a very esoteric subject. Why would folks be interested in such a odd business, but perhaps that some of that could get conveyed in some way other than just through the mere yakety-yakness of words themselves. We'll see, we'll go along here a little bit with it and see how it feels. So I thought it'd be very interesting to have you three facilitators up here to talk for a while about, share some of your experiences about what it's been like and whatever else comes to you vis-a-vis a year-end, so to speak, report to the camera. We're going to record it. We're all listening. It's the first time in the world this has ever happened, as far as I know. And you're a principal player in setting it up and operating it. You've been running that Module A on Friday nights now, loyally, since August. Every Friday since September. In fact, next Friday is a 3-hour formal module, isn't it?
It is.
You and Dustin will be in there for 3 damn hours. They're bored trainees. But woo, it has been quite interesting, hasn't it?
That has been.
Huh. Well, you suppose I'll turn it over to you for a little while and invite you to share a little bit with the folks here a little about that.
All right.
In some way or other. Feel free to go on for about 10, 15 minutes.
Oh, great. 10 minutes. Well, I'm Chris, of course, and I'm one of the principal trainers and members of the Institute for Contemporary Uranian Psychoanalysis and the training program specifically. And in preparing, because I have been thinking about it, I lied.
Oh.
So I wasn't processing stuff. Happy I'm not.
Oh.
But there's so much that comes up around trying to think about sitting up here in a gay-centered format, to be psychological, be present with my own self, my own inner experience, with people that I more or less know, more or less, right? Some people I don't quite know, but and then there's some camera that I imagine some future people are going to be watching me, and there's all these judges and critics, and I think the main thing that I was struggling with is there's so much going on. How am I going to talk about it in 10 minutes? Although I say in 10 minutes, it's important and relevant for me and for what we're trying to do here. I want to be able to be present with who I am, but at the same time, more importantly probably is what I'm supposed to be doing here, which is talking about the training program after 4 months.
You should be with your fellows.
It's intense. It's, my kids are, well, it's not as bad as it has been in the past.
That's bad.
Bad in terms of like violence inside. There's a way in which, one of the things I wanted to talk about is how this is really a great opportunity. The whole thing is a powerful opportunity to focus on my gay spirit and feeling empowered in my subjectivity as a gay man, and that there's a way in which, like you were talking about, these defenses, right? That the defenses want to get activated, the defenses take over, and I think without a program like this, without you having initiated everything that we're doing, there would be a way in which the defenses would be completely in control all the time. So there's a way in which this provides an opportunity to, activate, trauma in a way that forces me to have to struggle with it. And believe me, in thinking about doing this tonight, there were moments where I felt like I was going to, just completely fall apart, or imagine myself as a little kid, in nursery school, crying in the corner because I was terrified of being in that kind of environment, heterosexual, scary, alien, for me anyway, environment. So there's lots of powerful stuff that comes up, and yet at the same time struggling with trying to hold on to this idea that what we're doing here is really important. Specifically, that what we're doing is trying to help each other become more oriented towards subjectivity as homosexual. And how do you do that when there's so many violent feelings that come up around that, if you can tolerate that? I'm talking about projections, and of course, projections are it's like a little kid who needs to attach to the outer world and blame the outer world for the internal problem or feeling. So there's a way in which, of course, preparing here tonight is a great opportunity to struggle with ways in which my kids inside want to project onto imagined people here, to make it all about you or the outer world, when really it's ultimately about who I am inside. And